Welcome everybody to the Scaling AI in Finance event here live in Zolikon. We talk about AI, LLMs, autonomous agents, and yes, every industry is talking about them. Hey, but beyond these buzzwords, there is a critical conversation when it comes to retrieval augmented generation, RAG, as you know, and Gen AI, because it's about data governance, it's about regulations, it's about security in industries with very sensitive data. And the question for today is how AI scales in those critical IT infrastructures. Are there real business impacts in financial services? It is really tricky to navigate within those buzzwords. This is what we want to explore today. We have about 50 participants here in Zolikon at the Lake of Zurich. We have additionally 150 webinar registrations from all over the world. So to make it more engaging, please comment, like, let's test it. Comment where are you tuning in. And we also have some live polls. You can ask questions during the presentation. We will collect them in the end. We try to answer a few of them and the rest afterwards. React, upvote on the questions, on the comments. We will take them to the end, to the roundtable discussion. Looking forward to the Q&A. Hey, I will introduce the experts. We have here Dorian Seltz. He is co-founder and CEO of Squiro, an enterprise Gen AI platform. More than 25 years, an entrepreneur. So I know him from local.ch. And then after this Swisscom company, he was going into machine learning and innovations, founded Squiro 2012. So it's a pretty old company in this space already. And we have Bernd Schopp. He's a COO in Squiro and CEO and partner of Nemix. That's where he's known for. It's now a Merkel company and angel investor board members. He has 25 years of digital transformation know-how. And yeah, as you know him from Nemix years ago, there was a market leader in the DACH region. And at the moment, as a COO, he's really establishing and scaling the international partner network of Squiro. We have Lauren Hocker-Zaffer, is CMO at Squiro, and her superpower is she's also known for a New York award-winning podcast. The podcast is called Redefining AI. Definitely worth to listen into. Tune in and you will hear a lot of AI leaders and their experiences. Currently, she's in the role as a CMO at Squiro. Then we have Oliver Gaussmann. He's my business partner and COO at Createch. He's having more than 20 years experience in AI and technology, focusing on operational efficiency. Oliver specializes in this AI-driven solution, so he's leading these AI initiatives in our company and all focusing on business efficiency and scalability, leveraging his expertise in no-code, low-code development, and strategy, entrepreneurial founder, and he has a PhD in business and IT innovation. Philipp Ringgenberg is my other business partner, CEO of Createch. He's really into remote and agile leadership. He has a lot of digital transformation experience, more than 27 years, if I'm correct. IT leadership from all over the world, especially US, Europe, Asia, where he was leading agile teams, high-performing software engineering teams, and tackling innovation projects.
Welcome and good afternoon to this first series of TechShift physical and virtual event as a combination. This is our event series for this year where we're going to bring up new and leading topics in that format. My name is Philipp Ringgenberg. I'm the CEO of Createch. Createch is a custom software company. What we do, we design, we engineer, we develop, and we operate custom software. This we do in the markets in Europe and specifically also with the support of our development centers in Eastern and Southern Europe. We have about 300 employees from different profiles, from business analysts to software engineers, data engineers, software architects, developers, DevOps, and the quality assurance to deliver those software components at a full solution. We have been on the market for more than 20 years, and I will come back on that topic a little bit later because that figure is quite important on what we do. But what you are probably most interested in is to understand which problem on this globe do we actually solve. So what we see a lot is companies running a very complex, a very legacy, or let's say historic IT stack, and with that also a software stack that builds on top. And in today's world, that setup is just not prepared for all the AI use cases to bring them up to scale. So what we do, we work with our customers, could be with yourselves as well here in the room or virtually, to basically analyze what's there and then to refactor your software and application stack so that you have a stack that is greenfield and ready to drive AI at scale. How do we do that specifically? So we actually do not re-provision all the code that took you 10 years to build. No, we have our teams equipped with AI supported coding, AI enabled coding, which allows us to be much faster and refactor your environment in a very short time. Which clients do we serve? As you can see, we are very strong in e-commerce. This is where we're coming from, where we are acting in a B2C and B2B environment. We also have built expertise in the energy and education sector, aviation, but today, probably most important, also in the fintech and insurtech sector. Those are highly regulated markets where we bring the knowledge and where we help companies to refactor their stack. Maybe very specifically, banks with a legacy environment wanting to be ready for tomorrow's world. So this is where we bring this refactoring really onto the ground. Now, today we are here with Squiro. Squiro is a partner of us. We haven't been doing business together, but we both share the same vision. And as you can see on the slide, the AI world is a complex world, but it's also linked to governance, to strategic decisions. It's also how you really bring that up to scale and actually where do you start with that. So we want to dilute that complex picture together with Squiro, and this is what we will share with you throughout today's session. So what we see when we talk to our clients, or actually what we see with the clients that we already support today, is a lot of their time and financial investment goes into the running the business, so kind of keeping the lights on. But they all have very bold ambitions to move forward into new innovative services, to bring new services to the market, but also to adopt and drive that whole AI stack within their business. But if you look in reality, they are spending just very little time and very little financial elements into those topics, but those topics are actually the most important one because those are the new products and new services. That's your future market that you're and your clientele that you're addressing there. And what we actually do, we can help you to shorten the time and reduce the investments that you put in keeping the lights on by refactoring your installed stack with our teams, with our support and our expertise, but also with our commercial model, with the nearshoring approach that allows you to invest your time and your money into the future topics so that you can innovate and bring those AI cases to scale. How this could look like, how we do this refactoring, AI-enabled coding so-called, is something that Mark will show you now in a real example.
Now, what are we tackling today? I would like to answer 2 points of views or advocate 2 points of view. First, number one, stop spending the biggest part of your IT budget into legacy tech, meaning into maintenance. Usually it's about 80% which is spent into IT maintenance. And so what about if you shift your spendings towards a scalable AI-powered next generation, next solution? What would this mean for your business? And second, what can you do to move beyond AI use cases? So don't haggle from AI use case to the other one. If AI would deliver real ROI through integrated solution, not just proof of concept, what would that mean for your business? To start off, how complex is your business? Really, I mean, if you ask you now, how many of you think that your business is more complex than the software from Spotify? So which software do you use is more complex than Spotify? Now let me ask you, who thinks their tech business, their tech stack is more complex than the tech stack of Spotify? Raise your hands. We have also a poll going on here. Let's see the results coming in. I mean, Spotify has over 8 million lines of codes, thousands of developer years have been invested in this platform. Yet, it's a very complex system, and yeah, it can be optimized, extended with AI, of course. But what if you would see me prompting a new software into this existence? I will now show you live how you can prompt a solution like this Spotify into reality without coding in 5 minutes. I'm using a demo, and it's under the domain Bolt.new, and it's here to build a real application from scratch. Now, I prepared a little prompt, but believe me, you can also take a simpler one. And they just released the Claude Sonnet 3.7, which did a major step in code quality from the AI models. But let me show you in real time. So what I'm doing here, I go to this website, I'm pasting in my prompt, and it says, build a music streaming web app like Spotify using React and Tailwind for the styling. And the app should have a clean modern UI, maybe dark theme. And I'm also asking like, hey, do a desktop and mobile version and maybe some smooth animations. And I'm asking to return a really nice app. And I also added a sneaky small part. Hey, make sure that our TechShift podcast is also available in this little Spotify app. Now, if I press the button, it starts generating lots of codes. It actually creates classes, it includes dependencies, and it's doing a lot of development work, which I think would take months or at least weeks to do it when we look at the Spotify application we imagine. Creates the source, that adds dependencies. And now maybe there is even bugs, but let's also see how we easily can fix those bugs. And I can instantly steer and navigate around to fix them by just telling those, hey, fix this, it doesn't work. Let me see. So here we go. I got the feedback. We built some key feature, music player, music library, podcast section, search functionality, UI, UX, dark theme with modern aesthetics, special features like some financial experts playlist, podcast progress tracking, queue management for continuous playback. All right, let's see what it goes. Aha, there is a problem. And it says playback failed. There's no source. So maybe let's fix this source. Let's fix the source. It doesn't play. All right. I think we've seen that there is something new ongoing and it works. But now see, I would like to change the design. So maybe we do give me a toggle button to switch light dark theme. And here we go. We can switch between light and dark mode. And now the wild thing is that I can deploy it live in seconds. So it's on Netlify. It can be built, and the whole deployment process just takes seconds. I can even initiate the project in my own account, so I can use it with my own domain. But if I go here to this domain, I see the whole library is here, the podcast is here. I can start playing it. I can have my likes on, top hits, financial wisdom, chill vibes. So you see, there is a Spotify from scratch. And what I would like to point out is, despite my technical background, I haven't been into coding very deeply for years now. So I was following IT project, but I came more into architecture, project management, product management. But still, with AI, I can fix issues effortlessly. I just press the button, I tell them fix it. Bubble, Wix, Webflow, Framer, Microsoft Power Apps, Bolt.new, StackBlitz, Replit, V0 by Versal, Next.js web framework, built around composable architecture, and deployments are handled through Git repositories. Now think about this weapon in the hands of a senior software engineer. Cursor IDE, a fork of Visual Studio Code, integrating large language model, LLM capabilities into its core user interface. GitHub Copilot, Claude 3.7 Sonnet, Amazon Code Whisperer. AI augments real coding, making engineers more productive. A bit more control and less productivity. This is where I position IDEs like Cursor. Gives you the possibility that you also can take care of the industry-specific needs. I mean, when we talk about the financial industry, it's about security, it's about compliance, and this is what you can still control, and which Cursor is maybe the much better choice than going with Bolt, where you don't have this abstraction, or you have more abstraction and you don't see that much anymore. So what you can get with AI coding is also this kind of regulatory uncertainty, the data security risk, the AI governance frameworks, they all have to be built in. But with this solution coming up, it's not about generating full applications. It's also about refactoring and optimizing legacy code. It's about automating debugging and security fixes. It's about predicting and resolving the dependencies, and also enforcing the compliance in code and improving developer efficiency. Maybe some numbers say up to 50%, but I think it's about the training and the visualization of, hey, how complex is your software, and then learning and becoming better over time. So it's AI assisted coding isn't just anymore for engineers. It's really revolutionizing product management, prototyping, and also the next level of AI refactoring. And now the stage belongs to Oliver. It goes deeper into AI refactoring. Oliver, the stage is yours.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so really a superpower. 10 years ago, it took like years to develop the first version of Spotify, and now, like as you can see, like at least a very rudimentary version of a music player can be developed within like minutes or seconds. So is AI a superpower for finance or for any industry? I mean, there are a lot of promises, and companies in the last years have spent billions of dollars and euros into developing AI solutions, and money has spent in AI labs, in AI developments, in prototypes, with huge promises. And the real superpower in many companies, taking an example from JP Morgan Chase, was AI notes in meetings. So that's great. I mean, it really reduces cost of meeting notes. And for me personally, I mean, not sure who is using AI notes in meetings. Hands up. So that's really a super killer, and something saves some time. But it's definitely not where all the money has been spent is well invested. So there are huge promises, processing 100 times more data, knowledge graphs and AI that enable context-aware insights, reducing noise in unstructured data, compliance processing time in finance and banking. We have a lot to do with compliance, regulation, etc., which costs a lot of time. And keeping an eye on the constantly changing regulations from the authorities is a thing that really costs money. So the promise is that AI can really reduce the processing time of these compliance and regulations and keeps companies up to date. So the amount of data in organization is vast, so petabytes of data. The challenge on the other side, and I'll come to this in a second, is that these data are often stored in silos and are not brought together in a sensible way, so we can harness the power of data effectively and efficiently in an organization. So it requires a lot of effort and a lot of invest to bring the data together in vectored databases and knowledge graphs to be able to harness the power of data we have in these organizations. So this is where hybrid AI architectures connected to both legacy systems as well as newer systems could deliver instant insights in these fragmented data landscapes, and also in fraud detection, cybersecurity, and many other cases, AI promises to deliver a lot of value add. And it must be because we have, like, companies have spent billions of dollars to, and they need their funding to, and have some ROI on their investment. So I asked ChatGPT to deliver me a picture and generate me a picture of the Titanic and an iceberg. That's what came out of it. But I think it's really a nice picture nonetheless, because it really speaks for the problem we have in AI, that it's stuck in data complexity and in the complexity of legacy systems, of data silos, and of a culture that is often leaned backwards instead of lean forward. So culture is a big thing in AI as well. So you need to be able to execute on your AI strategy in an appropriate way as well. So we see scalability issues. So how do you scale and industrialize your AI solutions? How do you bring them from your lab, AI lab, where you've spent a lot of money to impress the C-level suite, into production, into industrial solutions? So you need some solutions that help you to scale this and vectorize your data. You need to train your data on and your models on the right data and clean data. So there are both cybersecurity risks by using data that are not cleaned and secure, as well as costs on using data that is not in a cleaned and pure way. So you also have, especially in banking and finance, AI and data, and the way you build up your systems need to be explainable, right? So you can't have an output of an AI system that can't be explainable to your regulators, and how did the AI create a certain outcome. So that's a very important thing as well. And so for this, machine learning operations and the way you handle your AI systems, your AI projects, etc., is critical. So with all this said, one thing that we see at Createch as well, which is really important, is to have a strategy and a sensible approach to refactoring and handling your legacy AI systems, right? So in today's organizations, the larger, the more complex your AI, your infrastructure, right? You have like decades-old systems with COBOL, with programming languages that many employees in the company don't even know or have no ability to refactor. So AI can really help to improve these systems and speed up the process of refactoring. So I've seen a couple of studies here from Goldman Sachs, for example, they did a big transformation from a legacy system to a cloud-based system and used AI for this, with a 60% efficiency gain using AI for refactoring, with an AI that was specifically trained for the systems used by Goldman Sachs. So, in a nutshell, AI has a vast potential to support in transforming legacy systems into modern, scalable architectures and systems, can help to transform from monolithic applications into more microservice-oriented organizations, or systems. So componentarization, so more components that are more flexible, scalable, and can be scaled for your organization. So a couple of best practices for you to take away. So one thing, and a couple of things we see in many of the initiatives we drive as well. So if you approach a refactoring project and any kind of refactoring, do it in a staged way, in a phased way. It's not the one shot, do everything at once, but really focus on things that create value, immediate value. Leverage AI for analysis before code rewrite. It's not about immediately rewriting code or doing something, but use the AI to extract knowledge from the legacy code and understand what the business value really is. Combine the AI with human domain expertise. AI is great. It can help for notorious tasks and can really improve things, but it needs to be combined with domain expertise, right? And we can train, and over time, the AI will be more intelligent and more smart, but it really shines when combined with domain expertise. Don't just convert. So it's not about translating code from COBOL to Java line by line. It's really about modernizing the architecture. That's one example is like introducing smart APIs, microservice architectures, a smarter way of fragmenting and componentizing the architecture is helpful and is necessary to be flexible and scalable in your approach. Rigorous testing and parallel runs, especially in business critical applications, is a must. Security and compliance by design, right from the beginning. Security is a key topic, and there are additional security risks when leveraging and using AI. You also need to plan for change management and skills, because I mentioned it in the beginning, it's not just about introducing a new technology, it's a cultural shift as well. So it requires you to have the right people with the right knowledge and the right experience to continuously change and improve your approach. So a lot of things to consider. But yeah, I mean, the models get better, our knowledge and experience gets better, and it's a shiny future ahead.
Thanks for paying attention for the next couple of minutes. I was given the task to speak a bit about if you look at such a platform, if you look at AI, I mean, it's totally noisy, isn't it? Right? I always compare it a bit like that. Before 22, AI was minority sports. Nobody was talking about AI. Obviously, people that have done AI before take a bit of offense in that. But let's make it plain and simple, right? Before 22, there was no ChatGPT. There was GPT, but no ChatGPT, right? And then suddenly it burst into the public. And the public discourse has changed ever since. And in my book of business, 23 was, everybody of us was running around and saying, oh, this new thing, AI, what do we do now, right? And then 24 was all about you start to do stuff, you start to build stuff, you start to trial out in your own organizations. And now what happens now? Now the next step is probably this. I just copied a couple of headlines that I got across over the past weeks. Gen AI in 25, playtime is over, time to get practical. Or the year AI moves from potential to production. That's at least what the journalists say. Now, who of you has gone into production here in this room and outside this room? That's a minority. In this room, 3 out of 50. 4. Okay, that's still a minority. 5 out of 50, 10%. Right? Why not the others? Could it be that it's really hard, actually? It's actually really hard, right? As opposed to what everyone wants to believe, oh, I just type in something on ChatGPT, and the moment you go into the enterprise, it's a whole level different ballgame. And in the next couple of minutes, I want to kind of like share a couple of insights we made over the past more than a decade in trying to get these things into production. I'm happy to share all of our insights here, either in this room, at the Apero, or also for the folks outside this room. Just drop us a note. Because what we have seen in the past sort of, 24 months, is everybody running wild after use cases. And the most commonly used use case is I go and chat with my employee handbook. Frankly speaking, chat is boring. Shall I tell you why? Mark introduced me as the guy that, together with my co-founders in Switzerland, mounted local.ch some 25 years ago. You know how 25 years ago, how long my average query length was? 1.23 keywords. That's not enough to say restaurant in Zurich, right? You can either say restaurant zu, no, I want an open restaurant, right? Or you can say Zurich rest. The Bernese people where I come from find that a cool idea, right? But neither is really what you want to go after. You know, the other day I had the product manager for Google search for Europe here with us. You know what the average query length at the moment with Google is? 3.4 keywords. You know what the thing is that joins them both? It's not a sentence. In 3.4 words, you're not able to express a sentence. Now, we have all been trying for 20 years to go through this one thing, and we're going to look at that, and do complex things in 3 words. You know, and suddenly we shall be able to express complex business processes in long prompts. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. Not because we're stupid, but because we missed the context. So what I want to say with it, chat is boring. But now to put the whole technology away would be a massive mistake. Why? Let's look at this chart. This chart is nothing else than a porter value chain diagram, right? What you see from the left to right, you see from supply chain to production to service to sales, and a bit of back-end services. And I'm aware many of your companies are structured slightly differently, but if you take a step back, it's all about the same thing here. And I started simply to kind of like note some of the potential use cases that are beyond chat in an enterprise, right? Where you, as an example, if you start to the left, in supply chain, where you, as an example, start to support supply chain processes. Or if you go to right into the center, where, as an example, in the back office space, you, as an example, support, I don't know, contract checking. Or where you go to, say, the crossroads of between service and sales, where you, as an example, support entire, as an example, sales journeys. Maybe not you chatting, but the system in the background doing that for you. Why? Because that's my view. The big thing about this revolution here is not the chat interface, but the following fact. Each of these boxes today is one of the big IT boxes, right? Say in sales, it's service, in sales, it's Salesforce, in service, it's ServiceNow, and so on, right? You probably agree with me. Have you seen these boxes chatting to each other? We have all gone through those back-end and front-end integrations, right? TIBCO, anyone in this room or outside this room, right? Probably some of us have gray hair by now. Who of you has done RPA, robotic business process automation? It's the same thing, but on the front side, right? And what is the dirty secrets of any of these integration techniques? You need one-to-one match tables. If the idiot in supply chain, because he's not an idiot, but a good guy, kind of like sources another part and doesn't update the table and says that to, as an example, the ERP is going to go totally derailed if that one-to-one match isn't there. Who of you has been in that hell? I've been in that hell. Many people in this room and probably outside this room have been in that hell. Now, what is the big breakthrough? The big breakthrough is language. Language, by definition, is not precise. Language, by definition, is something with a lot of ambiguity. And that's the whole point about these large language models. They can deal with ambiguity. They can deal with enterprise data ambiguity. That's the big thing in my view. And if you now deep dive into that over the next couple of slides, I want to share a bit what we have encountered in the moment we started to do this at large scale. Because our largest Gen AI production instance has about 15 million documents, 270 pages on average a document. That makes for an index that's about 14 tera, with about 500 million embeddings. And I tell you, I got lots of gray hair with my tech team. Why? And I asked then the audience here in this room and outside this room if you have seen the same thing. Most of the pilots over the past 24 months have been, I chat with an employee handbook that's anyway accessible to anyone. Now, I have not seen a company where all the information is accessible to everyone. We don't live in communism. We have permission control. Permission control at scale is tough. Who of you has done permission control at scale? That's only 1 or 2 people, because it's really tough in a vectorized index. Why is it tough? It's tough for the following reason, right? In good old search days, if you had 100 gig input and you had a compression rate of 1 to 20, you have maybe an index size of, well, 100 gigs, maybe 10 gigs. Or if you compress it even more, maybe only 5 gigs. You probably agree with me, in the moment you do that vectorization stuff, it's actually the opposite. It's 1-to-1, right? You have 100 gig input, you have 100 gig index size. Now, it's a whole different scale if you don't talk about 100 gigs, but if you talk about a couple of tera, right? And then you need to go through the whole permission handling of that. And with that, we're already in the next 2 points. How do you do that in a robust fashion to scale beyond the 10,000 documents for a pilot, but to millions of documents, where you need to have the whole data lifecycle enabled? And if you have mastered all that, I always call that, it's an actually brutal Darwinistic selection game, right? Because once you master the first hurdle, there is a next hurdle, next hurdle, next hurdle. You need to get to quality levels, right? All of us have seen using, whether it's Claude, whether it's ChatGPT, whether it's DeepSeek, elements of imprecision, right? And by the way, that's what you saw before when you did that Spotify piece, right? There were elements of imprecision there. You tried to click, but hell, it didn't click, right? Why? It looked like okay, but it was not okay, right? So here's a bet to offer to the audience tonight. I bet you we're going to see a large organization going down the drain in the next 5 years. You know why? And I make a joke about myself and my buddies, co-founders, right? We are Friday evening, wives and kids haven't seen us, or if we would be 30 years younger, our loved ones that we want to go meet tonight haven't seen us. There is a 4i principle, how to check in code, but Friday evening at about 7, you don't care about that anymore. And then you check in that thing and this variable is just slightly off. You come back on Monday morning, you had a wonderful weekend. What happens? Do you go back and check this? But this is this one runtime exception that you haven't caught. 5 years down the road, there is this wonderful exception that takes the whole system down because it looks like okay, but it was not okay. That's actually one of the elements where you need to counter this with accuracy and precision. Accuracy and precision is important. I would never entrust ChatGPT to the FAA in the US if it want to take a current example. Now, the next piece that we have seen numerous times is cost considerations. As opposed to what everybody thinks, this thing is not cheap. This thing is not cheap. And we don't talk about the token cost. We talk about the cost of the whole apparatus that you need to put in place. So once more, it's one of those things that on surface look easy, but in practice looks tough. Anyone here from UBS? Okay, here's a joke I can make because it's 25 years ago. Right? Bernd, myself, we were doing our PhD in St. Gallen. And we actually had this wonderful professor talk called Beat Schmidt, Dr. Beat. And we did produce the first web page for you guys in 95. You know what they said when we went to the UBS and the Times said, oh, by the way, here's your web page. They literally told us we don't need a web page. Money is trust. People come to our branches. That was the day, right? 30 years ago. Then around 2000, UBS understood, well, web is not going to go away. We need a web page. You know what UBS did? They started to build their own content management system for literally millions. And we told them, guys, don't do this. Multilingual content rendering is a bit more complex than you think. They didn't believe us. A couple of millions later, they went to the market, went to Basel, to what was by now called Adobe Web Experience, if I'm not mistaken, right? And I believe they're still using that. Isn't that the case, Bernd? Probably.
Partly, for sure.
Partly, for sure.
And part of the organization that was formerly known as Credit Suisse, for sure.
For sure. That's how it goes, right? And if you have mastered all these hurdles, there is a foundation model element, right? Foundation models are all engines, but no guardrails, no seatbelt, no nothing. That makes them seriously unfit for public use and even more unfit for enterprise use. Now, I have scared you probably to death to kind of like go into that space. What's the possible way out? That's the way we think about that stack, right? We think about that stack in analogies. That helps me personally to comprehend the complex world. To the right, what you see is sort of when we all started to do big database stuff 30 years ago, the RDMS type style thing, where you had the databases, MySQL, all long gone, Oracle, and so on. And then you get one step up to get an ETL framework because you realized, oh hell, the database itself is not useful. I need something that helps me get stuff into the database and stuff outside the database. And then it took a couple of other years till someone called Mark Benioff came up with a brilliant idea to finally get an ugly interface on top of an Oracle database, which is called Salesforce. Right? Salesforce was nothing else for the first couple of years than a more or less ugly interface on top of an RDMS database. That's the stack. And on the AI side, we think that's exactly the way the pattern's going to evolve. You have obviously the compute infrastructure, CPU, GPU, right? You can do that yourself. You can go that to the hyperscalers. Then you have the foundational models that start to be commoditized. DeepSeek, hello, right? That also start to be overinvested, in my view. I just spoke the other day with someone from Mistral. They're in a bad place, got hundreds of millions of investment dollars, but the now uncertain outlook how to ever get that back. And then, as we just said, a foundation model is, as an example, really bad at ingesting data at scale at cost. A foundation model is really bad at permission control. So exactly the same thing appears now. You need that kind of like generative AI tooling stack, right, that does this. And then on top of that, you start to build applications. And that stack you need to orchestrate, right? It's a bit like what we talked about in terms of web pages building at UBS 30 years ago, or when you went into the e-commerce revolution, how to build an e-commerce shop. A shopping basket is trivial to build. You can do that in literally over a beer, right? But the whole orchestration point from the moment you order something till the moment you get something back because you don't like it, that's a complex orchestration problem. And it's the same here, because if you look at it, what everybody tells you about today is this retrieval augmented thing, right? Like, oh, that's all the new stuff. It's not. It's easy, true, but it's not the end of it. Because if you have seen this kind of architectures, at the end of the day, this is a retrieval piece, right? You vectorize stuff, but retrieval, my friends, is probabilistic. An LLM is probabilistic. Probability and probability never give you certainty. Trivial, right? It gets you a good chunk out of the hallucination effects. It allows you to contextualize data of your enterprise, but it still is not on the level of precision that you need to drive enterprise decision-making. So what to do? We thought hard about that, and that's our view, right? We might be wrong. We're going to see in a few years. Here's how we think about that. You need to augment this with elements called graphing, knowledge graphs. Knowledge graphs is simply reference data. You need an ability to integrate tabular data. Most of the companies I know of, they don't operate just in text, they also operate with numbers. Now it's called large language model and not large numbers model. So you need to find a way to do that. And then, yes, you need to guardrail the whole thing, that it doesn't get off the rails and does stuff you don't want it to do, or regulatory-wise you're not allowed to do. You also want effectively to use agents to kind of like streamline workflows. Now, agents is one of the things at the moment I laugh a bit about because there is so much hype about agents, right? Our industry is so wonderful to take a pig, put new lipstick on that pig, and run it down the alley. Agents, most of the stuff I hear about agents reminds me of it's simply a workflow tool. Right? That said, wisely used, can change the game. Because if you, and given the time, I will not go through that all. There are a couple of challenges how to run such a stack. I'd rather want to say, where's the outlook? If you master that well, what you're going to get is effectively that kind of like autonomization layer. An optimization layer that allows you to kind of like not go only after just one use case chat with an employee handbook, but really think through how to do that overall. And we're going to share that at the very end. I have that here. Yeah, here it is. McKinsey, you can say many things about McKinsey, but one thing you cannot say about them, they're very smart people, right? That's the point. And they essentially propose here a kind of like a reference architecture of how to do that. Do less, do them better, and watch for who does this orchestration piece. Because what we just saw is one of those things that look trivial at the beginning, but is a bit more complex if you want to kind of like structure that throughout. Now, I have talked a lot about, and there is for the question time more stuff, but we're going to go back. Here we go. I'd rather go and show you two things where you see the difference of going beyond the RAG. Now, live demos always have that habit of being a bit an adventure. So let's go and see whether I'm able to manage that. And the adventure starts right now. Here we go. Yeah, oh, yeah, that's cool. See, works. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So I'm going to go here, and I have here two sort of the exact same setups with the exact same data set. And in the first place, I'm going to ask this question about provide me a list of funds, financial ratios, etc. That's life is a bit choppy, so it's not super fast. That's a traditional RAG approach, right? You have indexed the whole data, you have vectorized the whole data. It gives you actually a useful result, right? It's useful, no question about that. It even, if it's well done, points you to where the stuff has been retrieved, right? To kind of like give it credence and credibility. But anyone here working in an actual ETF desk? You're not going to base your decision making on that information. It's not precise enough. It's simply not precise enough. Now, let's do the exact same thing on this one here. The exact same thing on this one here, where we have effectively ingrained in the back end of the system an entire knowledge graph element. So it doesn't query just the index, it grounds it in that knowledge graph. Now, you will probably agree with me, this is very precise, down to the level of the ratio. Why is that so? Time is now too short to go through every little piece of it. I'm here for questions at the apero and also in the chat, just reach out to us. It is because we have effectively in the back end used a knowledge graph to ground the whole result set, right? So here is the actual precise element where I can, like you know that from other graphs, go and explore that whole thing down to the last bit of it. Now it gets to a level of precision where you indeed can start to base decision-making on such things, right? And given the time is already a bit advanced, I just do that in one go for the next one, right? Here, as an example, I do that little trick. Don't get mad at me, Philip. I steal you your colleague, Mark, right? Mark's going to start as a new BD with us. And for that, I obviously need a Salesforce subscription. Now, the system comes back and you say, yeah, I've seen these chatbots already before. Sure, you did. But here we do something more than that. We effectively have now an interaction between you, between the graph, and you're going to see that in a moment, if the network doesn't fail me, the whole shebang of what the process flow is. Now the network, yeah, here we go, right? So it already has picked that up. Yeah, that's a bit of a nonsense here, but it already has not created the Salesforce subscription, but in this demo environment, it has created the ticket for it, right? And to create the Salesforce subscription would be trivial. You have been with me, you know how that goes. It's an API call, and case closed. And that's the piece I want to kind of like draw your attention to. In the moment you're able to orchestrate such workflow elements in this combination of a human, important for quality reasons and quality assurance, and an AI layer. I have seen in some of the early cases we've done, as an example for a large telco company in the UK, unit economics that have sincerely blown my socks off. Sincerely blown my socks off. I've been now in this industry for 30 years. We have all seen kind of like the unit economics, kind of like distribute the marketing leaflet print versus a marketing leaflet online. No need to discuss what's cheaper, right? And what's more effective. We have seen the unit economics in the moment you kind of like hand out an online order purchase process versus you go and hire for, or better say rent for expensive money a downtown location. And now you see the same thing here. At that telecom unit, we do this kind of back and forth for IoT service cases, where we kind of like shrink wrapped the process from 6-7 hours to less than an hour, including the resolution of it. Now you can go to any jurisdiction on planet Earth. The cost efficiency again that you have is just incomparable. And now comes the even better one. Eric, that's the divisional head, came to me and said, the people gonna pitch that to me as a cost cut case. But you know what it is for me? It's a revenue generation case. You know why? At the moment, I'm out in the market like my old competitors with 6-7 hours SLAs, because if I have less than that, I'm gonna get burned. You show me a way to compress that to less than an hour. You know what I go to do in the marketplace? I'm going to do in the marketplace a case of I do actually 3 hours. Bottom up, that's 100% better than my competition. Top down, it's still 50% better. And that's the type of change that's going to happen, right? That in the moment you cleverly start to combine machine and humans for these type of process improvements, you can rethink entire process change at massive efficiency, revenue, and or cost cut cases. And that's what I wanted to share with you today. Thank you. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, audience. Happy to take questions in the little Q&A we have at the moment.
2 point of views. We are heading in the same direction. I would like to summarize our point of view is like, hey, don't spend this 80% of your IT budget into maintaining. So if you find a way of navigating through those new possibilities to give superpowers to your developers, that's where we are heading to make the make story. Hey, we have to innovate, we have to focus our budget on the right things, while having a proper foundation, which is the result of fixing the technical debt. But while having a proper foundation, this is where Squirrel comes in, and that's why I think it's so interesting to combine those two worlds, that you see, if you have a proper framework, you don't go from use case to use case, you really are able to do something more long-term and more innovative than just like fixing a use case and then it doesn't work. With these words, I would like to go to a quick question round. I saw one question in the chat, which goes into, hey, we have a lot of unstructured data, but how do you really make sense of this data when there is documents lying around and maybe emails? There's a lot of unstructured data which can be trained, but still, how do you make sure that it's the right one and you trust in the result? Who is the best to answer this?
I call that the holiday form moment. It has been largely unsolved. Who of you in your organizations has a holiday form that changes every year? It does, because normally it's 24, then it's 35, and so on, right? You know what happens in good old search world on January 5th when everybody gets back from Christmas break? In terms of frequency, and that's how search works, right? In terms of frequency of access, the 24 holiday form was way more accessed than the 25, which just started, right? So what happens in normal boosting? You get the wrong document in 25, namely last year's document. You follow me? And all of you have seen this type of versioning pieces. And in the vectorized space, it's even harsher, because once you have chunked these documents and you haven't paid really good attention, you're going to have an epic mess of which part is what version of what year. So the solution to this is not clear-cut and not easy, but at ingestion time, you effectively need to pay heavy attention to the way you ingest and the way you date stamp and the way you classify these type of documents, so that even before it hits an index, you have a clear understanding of what's relevant and what's not. Because once in the index, it's going to be tough to figure that difference out. So the key element is, if you want to make use of that, it's an ingestion time issue. Plus, you as an organization, frankly speaking, you need to get your house in order in terms of data quality. Just to patch AI against the box will not make your data better, right? That's the unfortunate truth. If you work on both, you can get great results.
Don't forget, it's not just about the machine. So if you imagine, oh, everything works plug and play and every email box gives the perfect answer and so on, don't underestimate how much the intervention of the human helps to give the right answer. To drill down, for example, in the right information space, drilling down to the content that is needed to answer the question, etc. So that entire concept of plug and play, and I just put all the data in and then we're all happy, that's just pure nonsense. So make it easier for people to take decisions, and the decision means also spotting to the right information, with which then I use generative AI to get to a faster and more efficient result.
And too bad that the internet isn't that fast, but I have prepped it already before. Satya Nadella is right. SaaS is dead. Satya Nadella is right. SaaS is dead. I agree. You're right. In many of these, especially enterprise boxes, let's call it that way, the interfaces might not be there yet. But many organizations over the past 10, 15 years have made significant investments into modern software stacks, be it SAP, be it Salesforce, be it ServiceNow, be it Microsoft, right? And all of them by now have some level of API sort of scaffolding. And this is our life system. I show you here our own life system, right? We have put everything into our own box. And I just ask now for, what are the call notes for raw T? This is a demo account. And where this points to, it's now not logged in. This is essentially our own live Salesforce system, right? And in the same way, out of that chat interface, on the back, on the bottom part, you see, I can create a call note. I don't need that third-party system anymore from an interface point of view, maybe from a business logic point of view. But in the moment you think this through, what this will imply, you can rethink many of the more cumbersome elements where you have this box not talking to that box, not talking to that box, right? So this is early stage, I freely admit, but this is gonna be very fast, commoditized across the board. I'm pretty convinced about it.